Is the board? You don't want the board in. Should we move it?
Do you guys think this looks jank?
We are okay. Welcome to
the 50th episode!
This looks like an earthquake.
Bida boom. Bida boom.
Today you have two very, very special guests.
Their names
are Hannah O'Day
and Melissa Boswell.
And actually, you're going to be interviewing us, all the listeners, with the questions that you sent in through our
social media channels.
But we have a real human that's going to be channeling those questions to us, who is Michael Rose. He's a part of our boom team and our boom team. And he's awesome. And we're really excited to just celebrate 50 episodes of Boom with you all.
It's going to be a hoot, so I hope you strap up and
strap in, strap down.
Strap all around.
Boom. Bida boom. Bida boom.
Oh my god, a boomerang.
It's
a boomerang.
Oh my god.
Boom.
A boomerang. Like,
is.
Everyone go in and then out.
Yeah. Okay, ready? Happy 50th, Boom!
Cheers!
Amazing. Wow. So here's your host for today's episode, Michael Rose.
Thank you so much, Melissa. I am super excited to be here and to chat with you guys. Just for who I am, I currently work as a research assistant in the Boston University Movement and Applied Imaging Lab in lower limb biomechanics and the osteoarthritis. And for Boom, I've worked on the last 4 or so episodes on the research side of things, writing questions and helping the two wonderful hosts who have given me the opportunity to host for today. We have a few questions we've handpicked from the ones submitted to us from social media that we'll be starting with. So first question from Jerome Isles is, if you could go back in time and take your technology with you and do a podcast with the following one person per question, who would you pick between anyone, a female scientist, a male scientist, and a biomechanist?
You want to go first?
Yeah. Let's do them out of order.
Yeah, whatever order we want. Okay. This is still our show.
The one I'm Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, that is the type of energy we need here, so thank you. Yeah, okay. So I mostly want to start with the female scientist because I was super excited about this question, and then I realized, like, shoot, I can name a lot of male scientists, but I can't name that many female scientists. I can name, a couple of Rosalind Franklin and Marie Curie and others who, like, maybe you
learned about in science class.
Yeah, exactly, who didn't have recognition. But then there's all the other male scientists that I feel like get super heavily covered, and there's laws named after them and things like that. So anyway, I was thinking more about it and doing a little research, but then I thought my grandmother actually is one of my favorite scientists, and she passed away, but she was a woman of her time. She was born in 1919, and she was one of the only female chemists in the 40s, and valedictorian of her high school and college classes.
Wow.
And she was like set out for a chemistry career, and she just always supported education in our lives, like always made that really a priority and encouraged us no matter what we were doing. I feel like she was one of the first people to make failure okay, because even it was all about doing our best. So just want to give a shout out to her, and and I think without her I probably wouldn't be where I am, and we wouldn't be doing this. So big thank you to her too.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'd love to do an interview with her.
I also would love to do an interview with your grandma. I think I'd probably pick Jane Goodall, actually, because I remember just really reading a lot about her. I always found her research really exciting. I was Jane Goodall for the Wax Museum show that we put on at our school. So
we'll
I
insert a photo of that.
Yeah, I dressed up in my safari gear with all my monkey stuffed animals, which I had one too many of those growing up. I've since narrowed my collection, but anyway. And I'm reading her book right now, The Book of Hope. So, and I found that really inspiring to think about, just remembering the bigger picture as scientists to help the planet, help the world, and help others. So, yeah, I'd probably do my interview with her.
Awesome.
I love that.
If we could do anyone, I'd probably sit down at a table with like Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, and Kristen
Miley.
Wiig, and Miley Cyrus.
We
just
have to
like
add Miley.
the 6 of us.
That'd be an incredible dinner party.
We're gonna tag them all in this episode,
Yes.
so it could happen.
We gotta make it happen.
100th episode would be that dinner party.
The 100th episode. Here we go. We're manifesting it.
Yeah, right here, right now. You heard it here.
So the next question we have is actually 2 from Pablo Kutza. The first one is, what advice would you give someone wishing to start a podcast?
I think the thing that's been the most helpful is mirroring successful podcasts and doing a lot of research in terms of that. And I think whenever you're starting something new, it's like doing the research, talking to people who have started something. And then for us, it was just like sitting down and going for it.
Just jump in.
Yeah, just trying it. If somebody's interested in doing a podcast, you could contact us and do a Student Voices episode to kind of pilot test that out, see what that would be like. But yeah, I think it's about also being yourself. I think that's kind of a big thing that we learned, and it took us a while to find that groove, but just remembering to keep, your personality and yourself with it and kind of make it your own.
Yeah. And I love like the buddy aspect of our podcast. Like I would never have done a podcast alone, and probably never will, but hopefully never will. And I think it's just been nice to have each other to bounce ideas off of, and also elevate each other, in the experience, or like, be in tune with one another if to support one another. So I think
it's finding good people to work with.
And their second question is, if you were magically transported to the year 2100, how might the field of neuromechanics look then?
This is a hard question.
Yeah. Should we broaden it a little to like biomechanics in general, and like what might we envision?
Yeah, that sounds good. Do you have a vision? Do you have a vision for 2100?
Well, I think I have a vision for, and we've talked about this on the podcast, but like a more inclusive and worldwide biomechanics, and interest and enthusiasm for biomechanics. With a lot of the studies that we are able to do now, we can enable these, worldwide at scale biomechanics studies like Melissa's run. And I've only been able to do biomechanics in small cohorts of people, like very, populations that are important and near and dear to my heart, like people with Parkinson's disease, but it's pretty limited to the clinic that we work in, to this location, this geographic location, and only people that can actually access that clinic. And I would love to imagine a future where anyone can be involved in and do biomechanics.
Yeah, I think mine's similar. I think I would be most excited if we can use biomechanics as a marker of health, and sort of have like a digital fingerprint where biomechanics is a big part of that. And we have our own like personalized models. We can easily, test different therapies for people, different interventions for people. I think detecting things, being able to detect things early by the way we move. I think all of those things would be super exciting to me. Personalization, scaling up to be able to help more people. Yeah, things being accessible and cheap. All of those things would be really cool to me. And neuromechanics, I don't think I know as much about neuromechanics, but I would to be able to just like send things from my brain to like my computer to do things. Is that part of neuromechanics? I don't know.
We're getting close. I do think, well, that's a good point, Melissa. I think like in biomechanics, a lot of the time, so I was originally sort of a neuroscientist, and I think as a biomechanist, I often ignore the upper part of, the sort of from the neck up, and we think about the muscle and musculoskeletal dynamics and systems, but it's really a neuromuscular system, and that is such a key piece of biomechanics. So I'm excited that in the future we'll be able to integrate that more. We'll have models that are more accurate and can really represent that piece of the system.
Yeah, I see it as like figuring out how to fit biomechanics and as like one piece of the whole like puzzle of holistic and like this biopsychosocial approach to medicine and kind of integrating that, because also in addition, like the psychology of movement and how we think about movement, how we can more like actively like have awareness of our body and I think that's so fascinating. So seeing all of that kind of integrate and come together would be really cool.
Yeah, awesome. The next question is also actually two questions. From Ross Wilkinson, if you could swap the neuromechanics of one of your muscles to that of any animal, which animal and which muscle would you choose?
I don't know. This is a really hard question. I feel like when asked sometimes like what my superpower would be, I like to choose flying, and I feel like that would probably be more than one muscle and also some different anatomy, but I feel like if there's some way to give myself some wings, that would be kind of neat.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's one muscle.
That's yep. So that's the muscle I would pick.
The flying muscle.
The flying one.
It's one synergy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, in a similar way, I think there's this notion, right, that we're born, like, you can't make more fast twitch fibers. So, and I feel like I was I'm very thankful and grateful for the body I have. But my reflexes, probably like, and sprinting and like all of those sort of, fast twitch dependent. Not that reflexes are necessarily fast twitch, but I just feel like I'm more of a slow and steady kind of girl. And I would love to go.
Yeah, you want a little pep
more
in
power,
your step, pep in your step. Also, I think what would be good for Hannah gets frightened very easily if you come up from behind her. And I was just thinking she could use like the muscles that are in an owl's neck and the anatomy to like swivel your head around so you can always see what's happening. So
I do need that.
Yeah, she's fallen out of her chair a few times, but that's all right.
Yeah,
we love that. We love that about Hannah.
Well, that actually transitions kind of well to the next question that Ross had about what were the most memorable moment from the first 49 episodes, good, bad, embarrassing, or otherwise?
Wow. What do you think?
Most memorable. Well, we always have a Word doc with like the questions, and we put some comments in there. And I just read your comment.
What was my comment? I don't even remember.
I think it was about the promo video.
Oh,
it was made for us very kindly.
Yeah, one time we paid this company our very first editing company. We won't say their name to save grace. Well, actually, I don't think they're around anymore.
They don't
anyway.
Exist, yeah.
We bought. For free, decided to make us a promo video, and we were like super pumped because we were like, yeah, like we want a hype video, we're gonna share it with everyone, and we got the video, and we can't even really describe it in full detail. Absolutely nothing to do with biomechanics, and the sound was it was like a hype, like house
EDM,
music, EDM. Yeah, it was out of control. And Hannah and I think just started crying.
The funniest thing was it started really nice, like with our faces, us with a microphone.
Yeah, and then it escalated very quickly.
And turned into a rave.
The beat dropped, and it just went all crazy. Yeah. So that
didn't happen in an episode, but it was memorable.
Yeah. The other memory we have was when we figured out how many nuts a squirrel can hold, or like how many pounds.
How many acorns
are in a pound? Acorns are in a pound, and we have that in our calendar as the day we figured that out.
Yeah, so if you want to go back to Kara Wall-Scheffler's episode, that's one of our favorites. And yeah, the research fails segment tells you about how many acorns are in a pound.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the saddest times for me was when we interviewed Walter Herzog at a conference, and it's the most amazing interview, but the audio was terrible, and I just want to cry every time.
It's like Melissa's biggest regret in life.
That's my biggest. It keeps me up at night thinking about that.
She'll text me, I'm thinking about Walter Herzog.
Okay, maybe not that extreme. But I think that felt like one of the biggest fails, because luckily anytime that we've had an issue with recording, it's always ended up being okay, even if we might have been like frantic at first, and the quality might have not been the best, but I can't think of really any bad times we've
There's
had.
been no bad times.
Yeah.
It only goes up.
We're still going.
And it just keeps
Still going.
and it just keeps going.
So now we have some questions from the Boom team, me in particular. The first being, as you guys start every episode, when did you first know you wanted to be a biomechanist?
Go for it.
We always joke in my family that I kind of fell in between my parents. My dad's a software engineer, my mom's a nurse, and I was interested in engineering. I was lucky enough to go to an engineering camp in middle school and high school, and I felt like biomedical engineering felt like the most people oriented, or where I could actually work with people the most, and it kind of fell in between what my parents were doing. So, and I always just loved it. Like, I feel like as soon as engineering was suggested to me, I was just like, this is it. I also grew up with my grandma who had a prosthetic arm, and I got to like watch the evolution of that, which was really amazing to see it from just like the rigid plastic arm that she had to a hook to a moving hook to then eventually an arm with some electrodes that could move a little bit, and to me, like, seeing the difference that made in her life was really inspiring and exciting. And yeah, definitely, I thought I was going to work in prosthetic design when I started biomedical engineering, and my path has changed since then, but it definitely was inspiring to get started in the field.
I love that story. Every time I hear it, like, it gives me shivers. Like, and your grandma just sounds like a badass lady.
She certainly was.
I thought that was just going to be bad, and I was like, whoa.
Your grandma, I think
know, I
she
was
paused
debating
because she
if I
didn't
could
know whether
say
to say badass. Bad lady.
She was a bad.
She was a bad lady. I'll tell you what.
The person knows me well. She knows what it's called.
I was like, you can do
Yeah.
it. Anyway.
Hannah, would you care to answer when you first knew you wanted to become a biomechanist?
Yeah, I love this question, and I think every time someone else answers it, I kind of think about what was my path to biomechanics. And like most of our guests, I think it was a little bit circuitous. I started as a biomechanist. I just said, like, I had a love for neuroscience toward the end of my undergrad, and then I applied to bioengineering graduate schools because I like this sort of like engineering approach to bio problems, thinking that that was a lot more tangible. You got to see, got to impact people within, this century, versus like some of the work that's amazing work that is done biochemistry, but feels a little bit, the work I was doing specifically felt like it had a longer time scale for having impact. So, and I love working with people. So anyway, I applied to bioengineering programs, and I remember people asking me like, oh, what is bioengineering? And I was like, oh, it's like, prosthetics and stuff, but that's not what I'm gonna do. And then coming here, I had friends that were interested in Scott's lab, and I was interested in Scott's lab from a neuro perspective and less a biomechanics perspective. So I started coming to lab meetings, and kind of serendipitously, I would say, found biomechanics, or it found me, and I ended up loving the people. It was really all about the people at the end of the day for me, and loved the scientists that I was meeting, loved the people and patients that I was getting to interact with through the biomechanics and neuroscience communities.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what made me stay.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like when I first got exposed to biomechanics research with Dr. Brian Davis, who came to the University of Akron kind of halfway through my undergrad, like, without him, I definitely wouldn't be here. And he's the reason I started research in the first place, and then introduced me to like conferences and the International Society of Biomechanics. And like, that's when I feel like going to my first conference was and meeting everyone and everyone being so excited and all the cool things going on. I was like, yeah, this is where I want to be.
Yeah, and that you bring up a good point. Like, I'd like to give a shout out to my neuroscience professor in undergrad, Professor Joe Bordeaux, who I think it's so important to have people that support you and kind of see when you're not happy and try to figure out how to, like, change your course and do what's right for you. So I really appreciated him, and I didn't even know what bioengineering really was, or so
So a lot of times people refer to us as the Boom Girls, and I don't know how this started, but now they can refer to us as the Boom Doctors. I was just thinking, because I was like, boom women, boom ladies. Like, it doesn't sound quite right. But I was like, wait,
Boom
now we're the boom
doctors.
doctors. Anyway, what kind of research are you working on, Boom Doctor?
Right now, I actually am really excited to be working in the WUSI Human Performance Alliance at Stanford, which is this new alliance that's across 6 institutions nationwide and is aimed at figuring out the fundamental principles of peak performance. So we've always looked at health from a standpoint of disease. Well, not always, but usually tend to look at health. Certainly I did in my PhD from a standpoint of disease and how can we fix what's wrong. This alliance is trying to do the opposite and look at sort of elite athletes or peak performers, whether it's physically or cognitively, and understand sort of what went right and how do we apply that to help human health overall. And so I'm working on some educational projects in that with that alliance, trying to train the next generation of scientists in these fields, as well as create some communication that helps establish this alliance as a trusted resource in the community for this type of research. And that the one I'm working on right now that I'm most excited about is a review of motor learning literature and trying to figure out sort of what have we learned from motor learning and how can we actually apply that to help people improve how they learn the different motor tasks or skills. And so, yeah, that's some of what I'm working on right now. How about you, Dr. Boswell, now that you've passed the defense?
I guess 3 main things. So one is, well, I think there's a lot of amazing new tools, digital tools for measuring biomechanics. And to me, it's really exciting to take these tools and build them into usable systems and applications for people and clinicians. So we did that with the sit to stand test and a cell phone recording where over 500 people participated in our study across the country and recorded themselves doing sit to stand. We could extract their joint angles and kinematics from the videos and then relate those to health parameters. So we saw it was related to osteoarthritis status and physical health and things like that. So that was really exciting. And I would love to, I think we're going to continue that in trying to make sure that it can be translated to a mobile app or an easy way to use that. In my time here, I also developed a psychological intervention for people with knee osteoarthritis to change how they think about movement and exercise. And we've tested that on a pilot test of 25 people. And now we're going to do a randomized control trial to see if that changes their mindset and increases physical activity. So that's kind of the psychology aspect going along where we're making these digital biomechanical tools. It's not necessarily making them mobile won't necessarily mean that people will use them. So I'm really interested in this like psychology aspect or piece on how we can help people adhere to them and really make them as effective as they can be. And help people just enjoy moving and physical activity. I feel like that's a huge part of my life, being active, and I think it makes me really excited to help people think about movement in a more of a fun and exciting way, versus just like something that they need to do and feeling like a chore. So that's something I'm really excited about. And then I think another project that I'll be working on during my postdoc is it's in the works. I'll say it's a toilet seat, okay, and that's about as much as I will give, and I'll probably be sharing. And it involves movement and passively recording movement. So that's my little little tidbit, little teaser. Hopefully we'll have some more
coming to a bathroom near you.
Some data soon, and we can start to share that. But I think it still kind of revolves around this theme of like, you know, digital assessments for biomechanics that predict health parameters.
Awesome. Yeah, and Hannah, it was also really interesting learning about the WUSI Performance Center when I was researching the Bob Goldberg episode, which is actually the first one I worked on.
Yeah.
Seeing that alliance and the different universities affiliated with it, so that was really interesting. It's super cool that you work on that as well.
Yeah, you did, and you've been doing great research, Michael. I feel like we should give you that shout out.
This is your episode.
Well,
I'm just
it's our episode. We can do what we want.
Yeah. Yep. We do, and we do.
Speaking of that, though, so the next few questions get a little bit more into boom episodes and just, you know, boom over the years. I think the first one would actually be looking at impact. So have you learned anything during Boom, either like knowledge you gained from like an interview or just lessons you've learned from the podcast that you've taken with you from the podcast to your everyday lives?
It's a great question. I feel like collectively we've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And just kind of reflecting back over all of the episodes and the interviews we've done, I think I've learned a lot about myself and how I interact with others, and also hearing everyone's stories of failure or their career paths and things like that have just helped validate some of the questions and thoughts I've had about my own. And I think that has been one of the biggest learnings, is just that, science is so human, and everyone's just out here trying to do their best, and trying to understand something about how the world works. And that's just been such a fun thing to be a part of, that feels so much bigger than just us or Boom.
Yeah. It's hard to pick, I think, a specific like technical learning, because I think every episode I learned something new.
Yeah.
And things that I oftentimes am not expecting, or it goes beyond just we're researching or reading papers. But what we learn on the episode, I think, because we hear the story behind it and the motivation behind it, which doesn't always come across in research papers, which I think is cool. And then what Hannah's saying with, overcoming failure, realizing that there's so many people that I think we look up to in the field, and oftentimes we just see the final result of incredible work, and that's really inspiring, but we don't see all of the times that didn't work leading up to that. And so having the chance and having people be so open and sharing that, I think, has helped me be more resilient in my life and research, and knowing that these things happen, and there's it's still progress, and it's still moving towards something bigger. And then I think seeing all of the different types of biomechanics work and how everything kind of comes together, but there's so many branches and people working on so many different things, which is just really incredible to see, but that we're all still kind of working towards the same goal of helping people. And that to me is also really inspiring.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've loved about this podcast, as being a fan and now a assistant to it throughout the years, is just celebrating the humanity of biomechanics, because these people are individuals. They're more than a publication and a website and a name.
Right.
They are the stories behind their work as well.
I love that.
And the flip side of that question is then, have you felt any tangible impacts of Boom in others? And I'm most interested to know if you've ever been asked for an autograph due to your level of biomechanics celebrity.
You take that one.
And if yes, what's the strangest thing that you've signed?
Oh, wow.
I wish we had an answer for that.
Yeah, I don't know. We have been asked to take photos, and we love that. And people have recognized us by our voice.
Not our faces.
Not our faces. So that's been actually so fun. I think what's been the most rewarding has been the notes that we get, like emails or DMs from people just thanking us for doing the podcast and sharing, whether it's someone who wasn't in the field or in a tangential field and then listened to the podcast, and now it's wants to pursue a career in biomechanics, or is more interested in biomechanics, or people in the field that have said that it's help them to be able to hear other people's stories, that they wouldn't necessarily be talking to these people, these professors. And now it feels like they're like part of the conversation with them. And that's definitely been the most meaningful, I think, has been those personal messages.
Yeah, and it was funny, like when we'd email people in the beginning, it'd be like, do you want to be on an interview for a biomechanics podcast? And they were like, sure, super excited. But now sometimes we email professors and they're like, oh, I heard of Boom, or oh, my students listen to Boom, and oh, we did an educational assignment on Boom last week, and we're like, what? Like, it's just been so cool to just again back to that point of biomechanics being human.
That was probably one of the most fun ones too, is hearing that a class assignment was to listen to an episode of Boom, and everyone could pick their own episode, and then they wrote what they learned, and Kat Steele shared what they wrote about it with us, and that just really meant the world to us.
we have like a good things folder that we put all of these in, and
celebrate
it's
folder.
just it's
Yeah.
been so great.
So full of
So
wonderful
full.
things.
So you can add to that.
Well, as a Boom confession, I
Thank you
actually,
all.
in the virtual 2021 Orsi conference, I saw Melissa's name and I was like, that's one of the Boom girls.
Boom doctors.
Boom doctors. Now.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, we're growing up.
We're growing up. Yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny to hear because I think also we don't really know what other people are thinking, when they're listening to the podcast. It's like
We
so
try
funny
not to
because
think
they're
about
still
I'm just
like,
kidding.
we feel like we connect with everyone that's listening. And when we talk to people about it, it's like, it's so cool to hear the feedback on it. But, in reality, we're not really getting any feedback on what we're doing.
We're
We're
just
saying.
alone in this room.
So it's really nice to hear that. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask about what challenges you've faced over the past 50 episodes of Boom, either in the podcast or just maintaining the podcast, and how you've overcome them.
I don't think we faced any challenges.
Well, that sounds nice. No, I think it's been different types of challenges. I think, trying to juggle Boom with getting a PhD wasn't always easy at times. And especially at the beginning, we're getting going, we're editing the episodes ourselves. There's a lot of behind the scenes things. And as we keep growing too, and like, I think I'm like, okay, we'll get more help. And then I'm like, well, now I want to do more. So now we grow Boom. And then it like, I think it just isn't stopping, but I think it's just because we are so passionate about it and excited. But I think all the challenges have been good challenges because they've all been because we've been growing and wanting to do more and reach more people. So they've all been pretty positive. I think the pandemic was challenging when we weren't together for a while. That was probably the hardest to keep our energy up. And yeah, I mean, I know it was a terrible time for everyone. I think when we weren't together recording, that was always hard because like sometimes we do a little dance before we start, or sometimes we just like have a little debrief before we start. And it was hard to get that energy and excitement for those episodes.
Yeah, but I think for every challenge, like I'm impressed with how we grow from them. And again, back to that sort of buddy system, it's so nice to like have each other to check in on how things should grow or change. And so that when we do have these challenges, you have someone else to go through it with, and it doesn't feel so I don't know, devastating as it would, I would imagine, if you were alone.
Yeah, going through it as a team, I'm sure helps.
Yeah.
And now a bigger team.
Which has been so fun. Like, I think that's
really
been our
the
favorite
community.
thing.
I mean, the community has like been so supportive since we started. Like, there's never been a time where I didn't feel completely supported by like the International Society of Biomechanics and our advisor Scott and the lab. We've had so much support from day one that any challenge we faced has been, there's so many people that we can turn to and ask for help. So it's been pretty incredible in that way.
Yeah, so thank you all out there.
And we'll actually circle back to the team a little bit later, but I just want to ask first, what is something that both of you appreciate about each other throughout your 50 episodes of Boom together?
Aww. Want me to start?
I can't think of it.
I'll give to Hannah some time to think.
Like I said, there's no challenges. I don't appreciate anything about Melissa. Boom is on autopilot.
I just like to, I just felt like I just like to add a little spice to the interview.
Yeah, she likes to keep me on my toes.
I think
which is something that I really like about Hannah. I think something I really appreciate is I always knew Hannah was somebody who cares deeply about people and also cares deeply about hearing people's stories and learning from people. But I think even to this day, sometimes I'm still surprised by the questions that Hannah asks and how much they get to the root of like who a person is or their story. And it always just, I think, brings a different perspective and such a, like you were saying, kind of a humanity to things. And I think it's very rare to find someone who can do that so easily. And I always like really appreciate that about you. And also I think just being there for each other as friends too has been like amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can't tell, we're friends outside of Boom.
This actually isn't a facade.
Phew.
Right?
It's just in character.
Yeah. This is... Actually, I loved this question, Michael, and I was so happy you put it in. And when I was thinking about it, like, the list is like too long. It's like when we ask people for their fails, and they're like, "Oh, I can't. How do I just pick just one?" That's kind of how I felt with this question. And I think what, if you know Melissa, like the quality that comes out so amazingly and so brightly is just her energy. And I think somehow, like, I am not like, before Boom, I have a confession that I was not a podcast person. But Melissa is a podcast person. So, and like, when she was like, "You want to do like this podcast with me?" I was like, "Sure, I'll take more time to hang out with you." Like, that sounds like a great deal, to chat and hang out with you. But like the energy that she brings, like, I find myself like, I so enjoy listening to Boom episodes minus my own voice, but listening to her energy and what she brings, I think it just translates somehow in a way that I haven't gotten with other podcasts. And
Aww.
yeah, you bring that energy to the podcast, to the people around you, to your family, to everyone, and to your work. So
yeah, well, Hannah ands me and everything, and the energy and anything that, like, any ideas we come up, we just build off of each other so well. And actually what I think would be surprising to people is, like, Hannah and I are quite different people, and but I think we have such aligned values in wanting to know the person behind the science, wanting to understand someone's story, share that with people, help teach people, increase access to knowledge about not just biomechanics, but the person side of biomechanics. And I think we've been able to keep that value at the forefront and sort of guide us through everything. And I do think it would be surprising if, like, I think the way we think actually is quite different, and the way, you know, we process things, the things that we like or don't like about the podcast too.
The movies we
have very different movie tastes. No, but I think we have these like underlying principles that keep us going and have made it definitely like worth it to overcome any of the challenges, and easy to do that. Yeah.
So the next question actually comes from one of our team members, from Chris Schmitz, asking, "Where do you find inspiration?"
I think
it was not
I feel like we just keep coming back to this, but
in what
it's
aspect do you find inspiration? So I'm going to ask in
people
life,
in
work,
each of those
and
aspects
Boom.
that I would say. Yeah, that's your answer too.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think I agree. I think in the people, I think nature, also traveling, which I've missed greatly. I find like that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from dancing, from from meeting new people, from having good times with the people I'm around now, listening to learning. So me, like I love podcasts. I love listening to podcasts, but it's because I love just like learning, and I find that to be a fun way to learn. But I think even I love reading books too, so a lot of different sources.
Yeah, you consume a lot of content.
I consume a lot of content, and not necessarily just about biomechanics. And I think that's what keeps me energized in biomechanics. So are learning other things outside of it, and then thinking like, okay, how can we use this? How can we make our podcast better like this? How can we make biomechanics better like this? Those are the things that really give me energy.
I guess, so I said I didn't like podcasts, but I love listening to commencement speeches. I just think they have a lot of wisdom, and like, I don't know, they bring, you know, the speakers, different speakers bring like their own little, you know, flair to each one. And some of my favorites are This Is Water by David Foster Wallace, and Mary Schmitz also has one that I learned. It's in the Chicago Tribune. It was published. It's It's called Always Wear Sunscreen. And I always thought that's my favorite commencement speech. And I only recently learned that it actually was a satire on commencement speeches that I think is like really good. Like,
oh my gosh, that's so funny.
But it's really good. So always wear sunscreen.
Oh yes, that is a good one.
I think I've quoted it. Yeah.
That's yeah. Anyway, so learning.
So just
yes.
Well, that answer actually brought another question to mind about how do you guys deal with burnout, both in work and if you felt it.
Yeah, that's. I mean, who hasn't felt that, especially in the past few years? I think there's a lot of ways that I try to deal with burnout, and like a lot of self-care practices, from like staying active to meditating to reading to just being outside. And I think being somewhere new, to new spaces, that also really helps with burnout. Kind of all the things that I'm saying give me energy and inspire me. Yeah.
It tends, I feel like burnout happens when you aren't giving yourself those things, or you kind of let those things go.
I love like self-help books. I reading, like that's my favorite genre, I think, like self-improvement. And for like even I think it gives me ideas for new ways to think about things and reframe things. And I think reminding myself of the bigger picture. I think a lot of times I get burned out when I'm so deep in my work, and I forget the bigger picture, and reminding myself to not be so serious sometimes is actually just like the best thing that I can do.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of burnout is just like a reframe, and it can, like, your body, like everything feels so exhausting, and then I will talk to someone about it, and like they like reframe or normalize it, and it feels okay again. And I think that's one thing I've loved about our podcast, is normalizing these things that feel devastating and like you're the only one suffering from it. And I do feel like, burnout is like, it's if you expect it to, it's gonna happen. Like, we're in these fields that like, and we're in occupations that require a lot of us. And I think knowing that it's gonna happen, and knowing how to, like, knowing these practices that help nourish you and energize you when it does happen, are like, that's like the best you can do.
Yeah, it's kind of like collecting. I feel like I like to collect a lot of tools, and I try to use them, the ones that work the best, regularly. And then, but I feel like I have more confidence in that when I do feel burnout. I know that I have this like assortment of tools that I can lean on and try different things. I also love experimenting with different things too, and trying new things, and kind of picking the things out that resonate with me.
Yeah, I love that answer, Hannah, about talking about reaching out to other people and getting help reframing, and just that theme of like humanity and community throughout this episode. Melissa, which one of your tools would be the hammer that you just hit everything with?
Whoa. I like it's it might be dancing. I think it is moving my body. Like, I think that is like, that's the biggest
it's biomechanics
one. And I think that
that was so full circle. We could end the episode.
But I think going through even the past few years, having a lot of surgeries where it has been really challenging to move, and I've realized what a huge effect that had on my mental health, and then having to be more creative and moving in different ways, it's been really neat to just realize that even if it's not the ways that I thought that I needed to move or like want to move, I can still find other ways to do that, and it still is like really, really helpful. And also I think the people.
Awesome, guys. I love that answer as well. So I'm actually now going to pass it off to Jessica Hunter, who's another one of our Boom team members, and she's going to talk a bit about the current state of Boom and future directions. So Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hello.
It's great to see you. Yeah.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys for letting me join.
Yeah, we're so happy that you're here on this episode, and also to have you on the team. Why don't you just give a quick little intro for the listeners?
Sure. I'm Jessica, as Michael said, and I finished my PhD in 2020 during the middle of the kind of the worst part of the pandemic, which was rough. So like you mentioned, Melissa, thanks, Michael. Like you mentioned, Melissa, with the burnout, it was real at that point. And then I worked for a little over a year on a project with the biodesign lab at Harvard on some wearable devices to track resistance training. And then since September, I've been on the job market. So that's an ongoing project
Love that.
that hopefully will turn into a job soon.
Nice. I also I feel like when we were talking about burnout, I don't know why this just popped up and I feel like called to say this, but I also think resting, like giving ourselves space and time to actually just rest when we need it. And I think I just needed to say that because sometimes I feel like we don't value that time as much as we should, and just, okay, we're burnt out, we need to take some time off. So anyway, I feel like, just something to add to that.
For sure. I think for me, it was about like having boundaries, and I think that's probably part of the hardest part of, maybe not so much now, but when everybody was stuck at home, there's no separation between work time
Mhm.
and at
Mhm.
home relaxing time. And I mean, that's like a normal problem, I think, in academia of like, I need to work and I need to have fun, so I'm not going to do either, and I'm going to be miserable about both kind of a situation. And it's
Yeah.
even worse when you're just I mean, you've seen the memes about it, right? But it's even worse when you're just at home and there's really no separation. It's
Right.
not like I can go to the lab and work hard for 8 hours
Yeah.
and then come home and feel like, okay, worked hard for 8 hours. I can just do something else and relax now. So I think that was, for me, even still, that's one of the things that it's the hardest to accomplish, but I think it's the
Mm.
most effective in terms of not being burned out, like setting work time. And then when it's done, just have, free time, leisure time or workout time or whatever you want to do. Netflix,
Yes. Yes.
whatever. Well, so to pick up off of some of Michael's questions and how he's mentioned, some growth that the Boom podcast has gone through so far. Now that you're 50 episodes in, how would you describe the current state of Boom compared to your expectations when you first started?
Well, I feel like starting out, like we said, like I don't want to give the impression that we had anything like completely laid out and had a 5-year plan and knew
Yeah.
exactly what we were doing. Like I think the fun part was just getting to take our, like Melissa said, our love for humans and their stories and biomechanics and just create something that sort of achieved that.
Mhm.
And showcase that. And so I think that was our original goal, and then I think
Mhm.
we were able to formulate some like more distinct, clear goals from that,
Yeah.
which has been a really fun evolution to articulate what Boom is. And so those 3 goals are improving accessibility to science, um, building community, and improving scientific culture. So that's sort of our 3 hallmark pillars of Boom right now. And I think, yeah, that's where we are right now, and that's what we've built.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk a little bit about where that's going?
Where that's going, I think, continuing to do that. I think we just want to continue to increase access to biomechanics, to science more generally. Yeah, we love building community, and I think expanding the reach of Boom both through the podcast. We have some other ideas and things that are going on that we're excited about that we can talk about more, that are kind of going beyond just podcasting. But we've been able to do that because have been able to add more people to the team too, which is something that I don't think we could have dreamed up a while ago.
Never.
And starting to have some sponsorship where we can outsource some of the behind the scenes things has been really important. And I think all of this has been, is making us really excited for what may be possible in the future. And it's kind of hard to, I think, know exactly what that looks like, but I think what we love is kind of the fun that it brings to the community. And I definitely think that we'll keep all of our goals and missions in mind moving forward.
That's awesome. So you talked about your 3 goals for the future and some of the expansion of the team. So can you tell me about how the goals for each team have helped you further your overall goals for the podcast, and kind of what the difference it's made to have all of these people helping you?
It's been so fun to have a team like that shares this vision, and people that are just excited about Boom and want to also see it grow, and also have broadened our own perspectives of what Boom can be and what Boom is to people. Because it's just so fun to have a diverse team that brings all of those different insights.
Yeah. And so we have 3 sort of sub teams within our big Boom family, which would be we have the social media team, which they have been so amazing in just sort of spreading what's going on with Boom, sharing whether it's parts of episodes, other fun facts about biomechanics, and I think really building that community through social media. And then we have a team, the management team, which has helped so much with the behind the scenes things, which allows us to focus on the things that we really love, which is focusing on the interviews and thinking about the future of Boom. And so the management team has been really instrumental in helping us stay organized and keep everything up and running really, and also ideas for new guests to bring and things like that, and then the outreach team has been amazing in thinking about ways that we can collaborate with other podcasts, other scientists, sponsorships, things like that, where we can continue to grow Boom, work with other people, really try to make the biggest impact that we can. And so they've helped us start the new newsletter that we have. And we also, which maybe we can talk about more, Jessica, that people can be involved in if they want, beyond just companies and like research labs and things that have been sponsoring Boom or societies. We've also now can have like individual support, which is really nice through Patreon, which I think we can do through our website, but maybe you could talk a little bit more about that.
You can sign up to be an individual patron to our podcast and decide which level of sponsorship works for you and your budget, and then it charges you every month. So basically, you'd be paying per podcast, and you can decide to pay for either $3, $5, or $10 per podcast, depending on what works for you. And then you get shout outs and some swag depending on the level that you choose. And then Hannah and Melissa, you can probably talk a little bit more, in detail about what the financial support actually, allows us to do, and what that kind of support, helps in terms of production. But that's more for like the individuals who, love Boom and really want to support the work that you're doing, but where it doesn't make sense to sponsor an entire episode or have ads or something like that. So individuals can get involved and do their part.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. And yeah, we have been so excited that we have been able to have so much support throughout the year. So we've had the International Society of Biomechanics, we've had our lab, the Neuromuscular Biomechanics Lab, and the WUSI Human Performance Alliance. We've had Sanford Health, which is not Stanford. Which is confusing because we're from Stanford, but anyway.
They're in South Dakota. It's okay.
And our most recent sponsor, Sage Motion. So we are working with them now on a collaboration, and we have a couple other ones in the works. But it's nice to have this sort of opportunity if you're an individual and would like to support us. It's mostly in this transition that Hannah and I are both in after graduating, but really wanting to continue Boom and feeling like we love that it's been able to have a positive impact on the community and want to be able to continue that. And in order to do that, needing to have extra hands to help support us with the behind the scenes things. We're also excited we love having workshops, design thinking workshops that we're hoping to continue on and sort of expand in that way too, so we can add additional educational tools and outreach through Boom. So there's a lot of fun things happening, and it's been because of the support that we've been fortunate enough to have.
That's awesome. One of the other things that you mentioned, but we haven't really talked about it in detail yet, are some of the outside sponsorships that you've had for, sponsoring individual episodes or having some ads throughout the episodes. So how does sponsorship help you? And if people are interested in sponsorship, if they have a company that they think the Boom listeners would be particularly interested in learning about, how could they accomplish becoming a sponsor with us?
I would say just reach out, right? our email, biomechanicsonOurminds@gmail, or you can go to our website, biomechanicsonOurminds.com, and there's a sponsorship page. You can see what that involves and who else is helping to sponsor us currently. And we're happy to just set up a chat. And we've already had some nice interest from different companies and talked about different options for what we might do, whether it's demoing a short demo video or a full episode highlighting something exciting about biomechanics that their company enables. Because I think at the end of the day, one thing that we want to stress is that we're still all about biomechanics and the fun and exciting insights that we can get from biomechanics. And these companies all build tools that can help us discover new things like that, but we want to make sure we're still focused on the research and those insights at the end of the day.
Yeah, things that can benefit.
Mhm.
A lot of our
Yeah.
listeners are students too, so things
Yeah.
that students might be interested in and ways to support students. I think we're also
Mhm.
thinking of programs that we can do through Boom. For example, Student Voices, where we can give other students
Mhm.
platforms to share their research or conduct interviews. Like Hannah and I mentioned, we want to do more workshops for students, and the type of sponsorship we can get
Mhm.
from companies can really allow us to help more students.
Thank you so much, Jessica. We really appreciate having you and your expertise also on our outreach team. Like, you've just already brought in so much good energy and perspective to Boom. So thank you, and thanks for being part of the team.
My pleasure. It's been awesome to work with you so far, and thanks for having me on the podcast today.
So we're gonna wrap up along the vein of the normal episode ending with a little twist at the beginning. Talking about research fails. Of all the fails you've encountered from guests on the podcast, do any stick out as being particularly memorable?
Ooh.
What was the one that didn't Tor light something on fire?
Yeah.
I think any of the ones that involve fire, or the last one we had with Mike that involved stabbing.
People wiped out their computers.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, those big ones.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The big ones.
So can you tell us about a time where you felt like you failed and what you learned from it?
I wonder if if I was thinking if there was any like
Boom.
failures with
Yeah.
regards to Boom, but
Almost losing an episode.
we talked
We've
about.
done that a
Yeah.
couple times.
Yeah. But overall, I feel like we've been pretty lucky.
Yeah. We somehow haven't recorded a whole episode like on mute or something. We had an argument, not argument. That's like
We
too
had a
strong of a word.
Full on
But
fight.
this microphone has a manual mute button, and when it's muted, there's a light on it that blinks, but when it's not muted, the light is constant, which almost, I don't know, to me both of those states are ambiguous. Like, it's not obvious which one is related to
Mhm.
which. So
Mhm.
we're always like, are we muted? Are we not?
We can't seem to remember.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So that's a little bit of a fail.
Got it. Well, then the last question, which is also asked by listener Avery Kratzer, what are you most excited for the future of biomechanics?
So he asked us what the future.
The future of biomechanics.
Yeah, what are you most excited about for the future of biomechanics?
Woo! I feel like we talked about it a little bit
Yeah.
already with the
Yeah.
future of neuromechanics question.
Yeah.
So I think to give an answer that's maybe a little bit different than that, and getting back to our people-centric theme that we keep visiting, I'm just excited for there to be different people in biomechanics than have been previously. And I mean that in a like diversity sense and perspective sense. And I was getting ice cream with a friend last night, and we were talking about how do we change this culture of academia where it's like sort of these I don't know, like some fields still feel very traditional, and like we're doing things because that's the way we've always done them. And
Mhm.
who does it take to change those traditions, and kind of rock the boat a little bit. And I think it takes people from different backgrounds, and different, I mean, even Melissa and I had very different upbringings, and I'm excited by people entering the field and supporting those people that are more diverse, and hopefully they're entering a field that feels more inclusive because of the community that we're building.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think it's the interdisciplinary nature and I think the international nature of science that's becoming more pronounced, and that to me is really exciting when I meet researchers from all over the world and we can all share our learnings and get excited about research and have new ideas. And the fact that we can so easily do that now is really exciting. It's not just at conferences. We can make this happen, all the time. And I think the focus is more now, or less, I think, on producing as much as possible. And I think we are considering like the people behind the science more. And I think that's been maybe looked down on in the past, taking time for yourself and focusing on mental health and these sorts of things. But in reality, these things are what's actually making us productive and happier. And that's going to lead to better science at the end of the day. So I think I'm really excited to see things moving in that direction too. And like having fun with science. Like, I don't think that rigorous scientific work and having fun need to be mutually exclusive, right? Like, we can enjoy what we're doing in our work, and that can actually end up benefiting the science too. So I just want to say how thankful we are for everything. I thank you both for being here on this episode, but also thank you to all the listeners for all of their support and the whole community for their support. I can't believe we're on the 50th. I think we've had over 100 episodes total, which we haven't taken the time to really celebrate before. So I'm glad that we're doing it for the 50th, official Classic Boom episode, taking this time to really recognize where the podcast has come. It's over the past 4 years or so, and just so excited that we are going to have the opportunity to keep it going. And really feeling grateful.
Thanks for letting us share our stories and also sharing your stories with us. We've appreciated all of them, and we look forward to hearing more and sharing more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to both of you, Melissa, Hannah, Dr. Boswell, Dr. O'Day, the Boom Doctors, for taking the time to be on Boom. If you enjoyed this interview and learned something new from the episode, make sure to let us know. Share the episode with somebody you think might find value in it. Before we wrap this episode up, we're going to share a research fail. So I actually sent an email to a coworker just recently that was just hi, their name, accidentally hit tab, hit enter, meaning to go down the line.
Hi. I love that.
They knew I was greeting them.
That's so funny. Yeah, we okay, yeah, I guess we could do you want us to?
You guys can do the actual outro.
Where is the outro? We don't even have it
Just
up.
go to Ashley.
And then we can all do a biomechanics off our minds together. And thank you to the International Society of Biomechanics, the Stanford Neuromuscular Biomechanics Lab, for all their support, and to Peter Washington for providing the music to Boom. And congratulations to him for also defending.
Yeah, we should take a moment to just celebrate Peter because he brought us all the great music you hear.
Yes.
He's just a great human in general.
He's an awesome human.
And he is always up for anything. So. Thank you, Peter Washington.
Peter Washington.
And if you'd like to submit a research fail, someone to interview, you'd like to get involved with our Boom team, email us at biomechanicsonourminds@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn at biomechanicsOOM. And be sure to check out Boom on YouTube as well. And just rate us, subscribe to us, do all the things.
Yeah. We should also say that we would love to do more shout outs and celebrations. So if you're interested and you want to celebrate someone, whether that's celebrating something you've done or celebrating a lab member, let us know and we'll celebrate on Boom with you.
Yeah, we'll shout it out, and then you can play them the episode and they will be shocked.
So excited. All right. Well, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Hannah.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Michael.
1, 2, 3.
Biomechanics off our minds.
Hello.
There we go. Okay, there we go.
Okay, here we go. It's still recording. Everything's fine.
Should we be like, welcome to Boom? Today we're talking to us.
Yeah, okay, ready. Okay.
Thanks to Michael Rose.
Okay. All right. Welcome to Okay, we're gonna do the intro and
yeah,
then
we got it. And you'll know when we throw it off to you. You'll
Yes.
just feel it.
Yeah, you'll guess we'll say it.
Guess